I'm Katherine Given, Senior Style and Market Editor at Luxe Interiors and Design Magazine. Thanks so much for joining us on DesignTV for our at-home color experience with Farrow and Ball. So today we're talking color, and I am thrilled to be joined by the very talented Alicia Cannon, owner of AJC Design. Hi, Alicia.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm great. I'm so happy you're here. I am such a fan of your beautiful interiors, but I know sometimes when it comes to our own spaces, things can get a little bit more challenging, right? So enter Farrow and Ball and their now virtual color consultancy program, which you used recently when moving into your NYC home. But before we start, chatting about paint, to kick things off, do you just want to talk a little bit about yourself and your background?
Sure. Yeah, my name is Alicia Cannon. I have a small boutique firm called AJC Design. We primarily focus on boutique interiors, especially for hospitality. So anything from restaurant to spas to hotels. We also specialize in multifamily as well. We have dabbled into the residential world. And as you'll see, there's some great touches for the residential side in here. We currently reside now downtown. We were uptown as of June. And yeah, we're currently loving our downtown, a new apartment. I reside here with my partner, Henry, and my daughter, Millicent.
Oh, lovely. Gosh, you are busy. No wonder you need some help.
Yeah, definitely. It took a village, I'll say that.
Well, I also love Farrow and Ball. I actually have my tiny NYC apartment painted pink ground, which I think is just the most flattering color. Like pink is like universally flattering, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it feels really nice with skin tones as well. And
yes,
you'll see that we picked a great pink hue that works in Millicent's room. So
oh, lovely.
Yeah.
So I've known that, Farrow and Ball does this in-person color consultation. They've done it for a while, where their customers can connect with a team of pros that really take their knowledge and expertise, to weigh in on the right shade for your space, because it's not an easy decision. It can be very stressful, but now this is all virtual, which I think is actually, even easier and better than ever. Yeah. But, to backtrack again, this all began really because you got to move during a pandemic.
Yes, absolutely, which we didn't envision ourselves doing. We thought we were actually going to move to Connecticut for a while. And, we knew we had to move in June because our lease was up. And, with the state of the world affairs, every day it's changing. So we just didn't know what September would look like. So when we were in June, so we got a great opportunity to move downtown, and we took it, and we said, we're diehard New Yorkers and we want to be here. And we went with it, and we rolled with the punches through the move. That was quite an interesting process for sure.
For you then, the time was right for this, virtual, consultation. Tell me a little bit about that, and, again, how it came to be.
Sure, absolutely. So, obviously I have access to my design library, but I didn't have the Farrow and Ball information with me while I was in Connecticut because, our office is here in New York. So when I found out about the consultancy and that Patrick would give me the time to go through the colors, I was like, this is fantastic, because, you don't know, especially when you only look at an apartment maybe once, and especially during the pandemic, we haven't been able to, you'll see it virtually versus actually walk the space. So you never know what the light's going to look like or how the space actually feels. So I knew two things: that we faced east and we didn't have a lot of light towards our kitchen area. So those were two big parameters I had given Patrick when I had done the consultancy. And, I just gave him my guidelines of what I needed and what I was looking for. And he really helped me understand what worked best and what didn't work best. So the consultancy was a huge bonus, especially in this time, because, you can arbitrarily pick something you just don't know without seeing it on the wall.
Let's take a look at how it went quickly.
Hello, my name is Patrick O'Donnell, and I work for Farrow and Ball, which is a British sort of premium paint brand based in Dorset in England. I am the international brand ambassador for Farrow and Ball, so I'm kind of a spokesman. I do interviews and press and color consultancy. The role of the color consultant, sometimes we try and push you out your comfort zone, but more often not, we become kind of editors, if that makes sense. We try and make your choice an easier process rather than sort of slightly being overwhelmed with so much choice. So we just kind of help you refine where you're probably going on the color journey. It's probably quite important to have some flow and continuity rather than jarring from, you know, having a shock every time you enter another room.
Yes, absolutely, and that's the in this case, that's exactly how it appears. The space, it goes from kitchen to living room, or living room dining, right into the first bedroom, because of the transition to the first bedroom. The wall only goes up to 7 feet versus to the 12-foot height of the ceiling. So because we have that jarring transition with that wall not going all the way to the ceiling, we do need to maintain the paint to go all the way through to the other bedroom. So yeah, that's something important we should keep in mind.
Yeah, okay. And for your living room, what were you kind of thinking of in terms of aesthetics? I mean, in terms of what's your furniture, you know, what's the fabric on your sofa? And
Sure. So most of my fabrics are family-oriented fabrics. So a lot of outdoor fabrics, cleanable fabrics, just because I have a child and she's still at the stage where she's ruining everything. So I have some beautiful modern chairs from Mitchell & Gold that are all in a black perennials outdoor fabric, a velvet. Our sofa is just being ordered. It's going to be probably in a white fabric. That's an outdoor fabric, so I can clean it.
I was going to say
a modern aesthetic.
Yeah.
But overall, you know, most of the colors in the actual living room and bedroom, or the living room to the dining room, are more of the chrome tones. Where in the bedrooms I go more gold. So in my daughter's room especially is more gold.
And I think because you've got quite a lot of strong elements in there, you know, visually strong, you know, although the palette's quite restrained, sometimes it's really important to have quite a neutral foil which lets all your objects and art breathe. And I'm going to show you a color here, and this is called Ammonite, and it's a really lovely, I'm not sure how it's registering on the monitor. If I hold it up against our pure white, so this is called all white, which is a really pure chalk white, and you just get this lovely soft brown tone. So it's not a cool gray. There's some, you know, a lot of grays. I think a lot of people perceive grays as being quite cool. And we do a set which are bluer based, you know, with a little bit more black. So this is actually sort of the warmer gray family, and this is kind of one of the softest, called Ammonite. It gives you that kind of really clean aesthetic without it feeling too cold and clinical. Just a really nice option. So the only reason I was bringing Ammonite in is just because sometimes it's a little bit warmer. If you don't think you're getting a lot of natural light, you know, you're in New York, so you've probably got high buildings all around you, you know, so there's less filtered light coming in through the day. So it has a warmer note, that's all. So that's it.
Okay, yeah, I can see how it's much cooler in color, and there is that blue undertone versus the brown undertone, yeah.
So the Ammonite possibility is, it's a living dining room, isn't it? It's a shared space. And then we're transitioning now where through to your master bedroom?
Yeah, into the master bedroom, which has mostly creams and gold detailing on the headboards. All of the fabric on the bed is, it's either like a light blue cream color, all restoration hardware, linen sheets. So there's like an indigo blue set I have. Then I also have this black and gold massive light fixture. And then the drapes are all cream, and then gold hardware for the drapery treatments. So, and then there's like a very modern, mid-century modern chair that's in there in a cream color with walnut brown. So all of the furniture is white with brass details and walnut brown.
So sometimes cream, I don't know how strongly it is, you know, that usually implies there's a slight yellowness to the fabric. So sometimes grays don't work with that, but obviously something that sits really nicely with gray, but also will be really empathetic to any cream tones you have, and also the walnut mid-century. There's this really beautiful color we do called setting plaster.
Oh, setting plaster, yes, I have written that down.
It's a really beautiful pink, and I'll show you that against the all white again, so you can see the color coming through.
I love that color. It's beautiful.
That's slightly better, isn't it? So sometimes I'm getting a bit of light bounce on here. And I'll show you that against I'll show you against Ammonite, because again, it's that brown. So the lovely thing about setting plaster is it's not a sugary candy pink. Again, it's got some brown through it. So there's it's quite a sophisticated pink. With the Ammonite and the setting plaster, with that transition, you're almost getting those brown notes following themselves through. So you get that kind of nice symbiosis between the fact they're both slightly brown based.
I love setting plaster, and I think you're convincing me to go to Ammonite. To be honest, I'm really loving it. It's really
Really pushy. Just tell me to shut up.
No, the setting plaster is really beautiful. That's the color I was thinking for my daughter's room. It's just, there was another color called, I believe, Middleton. Middleton
Middleton pink, yeah, which I've
Middleton
got,
pink, which
yeah.
I felt was a little too childlike, where the setting plaster was just like, I could see my daughter growing into that color, right?
So that's Middleton. So it's much softer. It's a bit cooler. So there's a bit of black through it. So actually, weirdly though, that then goes with your dimps really well.
Yeah.
So we can still play with either family. So if dimps is the preferred choice for your living room, then maybe Middleton, or actually I've got another color here, which is really nice. It's a bit more intense, called Calamine, which is one up from Middleton pink. So so that's Calamine here, and then Middleton. Then obviously you've got the warmer, browner base of Ammonite and setting plaster. So it's just trying to bring that level of warmth in a bit more. So again, I'm just worried about this might be feeling a bit cooler.
It is feeling cooler. Yeah, definitely see that. I'm leaning towards more of the warmer tone.
And would you go a little bit darker in your bedroom if we went down the grey route again? Because I'm going here, and I know I said I'm nervous about creams and greys, because what can happen sometimes when you put creams and greys together is the grey can make the cream look too yellow, and the cream can make the grey look too cold and a bit dirty. Okay. So that's the only caution I'm throwing in there. So that's why we always recommend sampling before you commit.
Yeah. So if we did the darker color on the floor, would you still suggest doing the darker color on the wall?
Yeah, I think it can look really beautiful. It'd be really cocooning, and especially in a bedroom, essentially, it's your resting space at night. Yes, okay, you have to wake up in it and everything. So,
yeah.
But, to go into a room that's quite dark and cocooning is actually quite conducive to a good night's sleep, because it's kind of not distracting. Yeah. It's too bright. There's not a lot of energy, in the color.
So the dark color that you suggested was
mole's breath, and if that's too much of a commitment, we do one shade lighter. So, as I'm saying, when you look at your color card, when you find where Ammonite is, you'll see this color family. So it's kind of strong white, Ammonite, Cornforth white, Purbeck stone, worsted, and mole's breath. They're all together as a gray group.
Gray group? Okay. I think if anything, like if I'm gonna feel like I'm gonna do some color, I think I would do the Purbeck stone.
Yeah. It's lovely, and
pretty.
It gives you that flexibility that you want, so you're not having to worry about having to repaint the walls if you want to introduce, where mole's breath would commit you much more to possibly changing it if you wanted to do other things in the room.
Yeah, and the other thing is I've never lived in this space before, so you know how it is about becoming acclimating to your space, right? Sometimes you paint everything and you've never lived in the space, you don't really know how you're going to live in the space or how you're going to feel in the space. So it's always like, okay, should I go I have no color problem with going bold colors, because I love bold, and I think it's a lot about personality too, so I don't mind bold. So getting to my bathroom, since we have decided on the living room and that's going to go into my bedroom, so I think this Purbeck stone would look really pretty in the bedroom as well. And then since Millie's room we said setting plaster, what should we do in the bathroom?
What tiles have you got in your bathroom? Have you got tiling in there?
We do, and just so you know, we tried to do this on a budget, so we reglazed everything and just reglazed it all white.
So I might throw in a curveball here.
Okay.
Just because we've been quite discreet and subtle everywhere, and
sure.
But I'm thinking of the white, and I'm talking green here. So I don't know what your relationship to green is. It's a really lovely bathroom color. It's a really good feeling color. Green is the color of nature. It's one of those that's very restful and very calming as a palette. I'm going to show you a color here, and it's called card room green.
Okay.
There's almost a grayish tone again through it. So it's kind of it's a dirtier green rather than a bright, verdant spring green.
Okay.
And I'm going to show you that against a white. When I can find my whites in my ever-increasing palette of sample boards. So it's quite dark, but it's really beautiful.
It's pretty.
It's really, it's
putting on your makeup.
Yeah, no, you might look a bit more jaundiced in this also. No. It might be absolutely fine. But the one thing you could do, if you've got just not too much wall, is take the wall and right over the ceiling. Is a really nice trick to do. It's really beautiful and it's quite dramatic. And I don't know about whether you're into having house plants or anything through the property. You know, living things are quite nice because, again, it's kind of quite good for the mood and the spirit having living plants. You know, sort of some greenery and everything, you know, in the bathroom with green. Green and white is a terribly elegant combination in a bathroom. It's really beautiful. I think that's a really lovely option for you.
Okay.
If that's not too petrifying, that is.
No, I like color. And, you know, I think with something like, you know, we have like gray towels, we have white towels. Most of our towels are white, you know, and clean, monogrammed. I love a monogram. Okay, great. That was really helpful. And I think you convinced me to go a little darker, which was nice. It was a little bit outside of my comfort zone, but I'm glad I did it for the bathroom. And I really love the gray color that you suggested for the living room. It's really pretty.
I think it's just a bit, you know, it's just a little bit warmer. So, you know, I think having a browner-based gray is probably more empathetic to the environment.
Okay, that's good. That's good advice, especially with the daylight we are not really getting, you know, in that part of the room. So
perfect.
Yeah,
And that's it. We've covered all the rooms, have we now?
Yes, we have. We're all set. Yes.
Brilliant.
Yeah, thank you so much for your help. I appreciate it.
So that looks so interesting, Alicia. Was that helpful? You know, talk to me a little bit more about the process. You know, as I said, it must be so nice to have, you know, a color expert really to bounce decisions. You know?
Sure. You know, the great thing that Patrick had given me was, you know, he really asked a lot of questions, which I thought was really great. Like he really probed me about like what the furniture was, you know, what our style of living was. Did I have children? So he asked a lot of those questions, which I thought was really thoughtful, but it was actually quite smart because all of those questions really affected the color I chose. You know, the fact that we picked a color that has low VOCs, doesn't have a lot of, you know, after smells, or you can paint while you're at home, which was great, you know, so that was very important to me having a child. Also the importance of including a primer, he really emphasized on that. Just even like originally when I was looking at the colors, I had a few colors selected and then, you know, he's like, why don't I show you this? And I was like, oh, I would have never thought about that. And it was really good to get his perspective because he's like in the know. He uses these colors often and he's seen them in spaces. So like for me, I haven't really seen it on the wall. You know, I see it on a small chip. So it was really beneficial. Absolutely.
And how was sort of the virtual experience? Because I know, you know, usually most things in life these days, it was in person, you know, and you could really talk to someone face to face, but how was the virtual experience? It
was seamless, absolutely seamless. I didn't feel like I was wasting a lot of time. I didn't have to go there. You know, I did it in the comforts of my home. I had all my samples with me. So, you know, after making those decisions and then going back and looking at all the finishes that I already had and seeing it all come together, really just closed the gap for me on the paint. And as soon as I had that, you know, there was no questions after it. So from start to finish, seamless.
Yeah, it probably saved you time, right? Now in this virtual world, it's just much easier to connect, right?
Absolutely. Transportation alone is, you know, I would have had, you know, the local, because I'm in Connecticut, the closest location would have been New York. And, you know, our showrooms are closed at that time. So it was a life savings. It was super easy and it really helped progress the space and get us moved in easily.
Talk to me a little bit about light. You said you had like some tricky lighting situation, or how has like the paint also transformed, like daylight, nighttime?
Sure. The space itself is like pretty dark during the night because it's west facing. That we don't have windows towards the west side of the building. And we only have natural morning light, which is wonderful. So I did help it, you know, the space itself has really tall ceilings, which is really helpful.
Oh, lovely. Lucky you.
So, you know, raising the draperies to the ceiling and keeping colors quite light and airy and open really helped. We added a lot of mirrors in the space to make the space even look bigger. So, you know, small little tricks, but the paint itself really helped the space open up and really feel larger than it actually is.
So, you know, as we know, color can completely transform a space, and I'm very excited to actually take a look at some of your before and after photos and sort of have you walk me through some of the spaces that you painted. So
Sure.
do you want to start, where do you want to start? Maybe in like the entry space?
Yeah, I mean, it's small. We're under 1,000 square feet here in Manhattan, but yes, the entry dining / living / kitchen. Yes, absolutely. So this space has actually master bedroom as well. The space itself all leads into one room. So it goes basically from east to west. So the entire room didn't have a lot of transitions parts where we could transition to another color. So we kept the entire color the entire space one color. So we did the Purbeck stone, which is an understated gray, and it's the longevity of this color. Like, I don't see myself having to paint this color in the next, like, I don't know. I think I could really live in this color for a while because it's a color that easily transforms with other colorations. Like, I could always change this space, and I think the background's neutral enough that I could keep it.
Yeah, that's such a lovely color. And I also find Farrow and Ball, you know, paint names so interesting, right? I'm always like looking through my little fan deck and I'm like, oh my God, dead salmon, or I don't know, it's very evocative, but that's a lovely, lovely shade. Is that where you're at now, or is that a different
Yes,
color?
it's in the back here. And
And
it's a great backdrop for paintings and anything that has a lot of color on it.
you're right, it kind of stands out, anything that you hang on it. And so you mentioned you use this in sort of the entry dining living space as well as in your master bedroom.
That's correct. Yeah, we have a half height wall, not a half height wall, it's a 7-foot wall because we have 10-foot ceilings. So the actual space continues through to the east side of the building. So we wanted to keep it continuous and have a flow without having to start and stop colors or, you know, interjecting any type of transition.
Nice. And I hear that you painted yourself, which I actually kind of did a recent thing. And how did that go?
It was, I actually found the trimming quite therapeutic, believe it or not. I was here late nights by myself doing a lot of the trimming, and, you know, I felt like I also liked doing the primer, believe it or not.
Interesting.
The primer was very therapeutic because I think I was washing away whatever was existing.
Right.
So, you know, just transforming it to a white shade, whatever, if it was a light tone or a mid-tone, whatever the primer base was. But it felt almost therapeutic, like we were really transforming our space to our own space. So maybe it was psychological.
Well, now's the time to sort of get your hands dirty and do all these projects at home, right? And it honestly looks beautiful, very professional.
Yeah, it actually, I have to say, I would have paid someone to do it at this. I would have gotten paid for it.
Nice. And then, so the last space I kind of want to discuss is this lovely, your daughter's bedroom, right? Which is so sweet. I love the shade you picked here.
Yeah, setting plaster is a great dusty powder pink. My daughter's 2.5, so I wanted something that she would have a lot of longevity again, because who wants to paint if you don't have to? But I wanted to give her an opportunity to grow into something without it feeling too childlike all the time. I wanted to have a nice backdrop. She's a lot of colorful artwork. And I wanted it to feel open and airy and feel larger than, you know, it actually appears to be. So it feels so refreshing in the space. I'm really happy we settled on that color.
I'm such a pink person, and I feel like it's good, you know, for younger people, older, you know, it can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Spaces, right?
Yeah.
So, well, congratulations. Your new space is so beautiful, and, you know, I wholeheartedly endorse your paint picks. I love them. And it's, you know, it was so fun to hear a little bit about the process and really obviously see Farrow and Ball's beautiful colors, you know, come to life in your space. So to our viewers, thanks for tuning in to Design TV. And if you need some help with your paint projects, head over to Farrow and Ball online for a virtual color consultancy. Thanks so much, Alicia.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, it's Lisa Bingham Dewart. I'm Luxe's Pacific Northwest Homes editor, and I am thrilled to welcome Portland-based designer Joelle Nesen of Nesen. Besides running an award-winning firm, she also has a brick-and-mortar presence, and which it opened in a new space not too long ago. A year, yeah, so still kind of a newbie. Yeah. And we are delighted to welcome Joelle here to talk about a project that we ran in our September-October 2019 issue, which was a big favorite of everyone's. As you will see, it's just really wonderful and dynamic and fun. So I'm thrilled to have Joelle here. Joelle, how are things going in Portland?
Things are going well now. A little bit of residual smoke from California. Sorry to hear about that. But we are blue skies again, and wildfires are under control, and most things are pretty under control now. So we're sort of back at work. Obviously, COVID cautious and PPE protected and social distancing appropriate and all that good stuff. But we're able to, with the size of our space, pretty much continue business as usual, which is good because business is very busy out here.
Exactly, and that's what I've been hearing from people all across the country, is that this is the moment. People are stuck at home and realizing all the stuff that needs to be done to.
They can't go to Italy or the Bahamas, and so everyone is sort of turning it in and thinking about what they can do at home.
Exactly. So I wanted to chat about this project that we featured. It was a house in West Lynn, and I would love to get the story about how you came to the project and what the owners were asking, because it was an existing house that they had lived in for quite a while. So, but were ready for had some kind of life, moving their life into a new phase, and so had some requests.
It's time for a facelift. It's in a place called Stafford Hills Estates, which is a beautiful kind of rolling. There's some horse farms, and it's gated, but all the spaces are like 5 acres, and it's very lovely, and views of the valley. They are a little older, and we came to them via their neighbors. We had just done a large renovation on their neighbor's house that were their super good friends, and they had worked with Jeffrey Miller, a Portland architect, very well known up here, helped them build their house 20 years ago. And the wife owned an antique store in downtown Portland, and just, I think, at the retirement, had collected all these great things, and then had this house from 20 years ago, and they just felt like it kind of was all coming in on them and feeling like we need an edit and a refresh and updated, but still maintaining a very classic antiques worthy space. And so that was our challenge.
And so what were some of when you walked into the house, what did you see, and what was sort of your first impression?
So many antiques. There were she had everything good and everything. It was so layered that you couldn't really even get your mind around all the things you were seeing. There were just, pediment mirrors and mounted tables and benches, and there were statuary. There was just everything you could possibly imagine was layered into this house, along with lots of sort of heavy, sort of chintzy wallpaper and fabric. And it was all very muddy and kind of tired. And you sensed the coolness that was there, but it felt a little sad, like just a little tired. So, and they both felt, I think, they're very active. They play a lot of golf, they go to the desert, but felt they wanted something fresher and more fun and exciting, but while remaining true to who they are. And that was what we went toward.
So besides working on the interiors, you did some interior architecture, because that was, as I understand it, another part of the plan was that they'd lived in the house for, quite a while.
Yeah.
And there were just some spaces that they realized just didn't work in the same way that they intended or wanted them to work now. So can you talk a little bit about some of the big moves you made in terms of rethinking and reworking?
So one of the main ones was off the kitchen, there was a tiny little sitting nook to eat, and it was very dark, and it was also a pass-through room to go to this sun porch that later got enclosed but had no real heat. And also there was a separate little tiny bar that kind of was dark and had no windows, and everything just felt like a little rabbit warren-ish. And so we really felt like we wanted to open up and create a more fun bar space that didn't isolate you from everyone. We wanted a place that was more comfortable to both sit and eat breakfast and really read the paper and enjoy the beautiful valley views in the sun, which we felt was that breakfast room that was the enclosed porch that had no heat before. And so we felt like that room really had the potential to be something amazing. And we needed a way to get to it that didn't take you through little tiny rooms. So we took the wall out between the bar and the nook and opened up a beautiful doorway. We had to save the stone and repurpose the stone around the openings and created a floor heated sunroom or breakfast room that was usable all year long. So we, of course, we put a TV out there to watch the news. We have comfortable chairs and created much more traffic flow. And in the meantime, we were able to gain all of the bookcase storage and the storage for her pottery collection in the bar area. So as we were designing, we were always thinking, how are we going to display this Quimper French pottery that she had in a really amazing way without having it look like you just had pottery strewn everywhere around the house, which was kind of how it was. So that was our So that was one of the main areas. And the second one was you had to go through the closets to get to the master his and hers bathrooms. And it always felt like you were walking through a messy closet. So in our process of working through the plans, we felt like we wanted to flip where the bathroom was and the closets. And so we did that. And we moved the master bathroom closer to the bedroom and put the closet in the back far corner of the house so that you walked through beauty to get to his and hers closets with his and hers sides of the bathroom, which is really critical for them. And then we had a shared space with a beautiful tub and a beautiful shower, but toilets and vanities were separate.
Cool. And one of my favorite things about as a short person who's married to a tall person is that you there's a height difference with your clients.
She's like 5'2", and he's probably 6'4", and so we were able to, because they live in his and hers bathroom, which I do as well, it was a great opportunity to give her vanity and seating that focused on her stature, and his vanity is much taller and works for him. So he can stand and see, and she can stand and see or sit, and it all works so much better for them.
Right.
And then they have their separate closets, which are designed for a tiny person to grab clothes and a very tall person to maximize the ceiling height.
I think that might be my favorite detail about this house.
You'd be right at home in this closet.
Totally. I could reach things for a change and not have to grab a ladder every time I wanted something. So you laid the foundation. We have, you refreshed the bathrooms. You reconfigured the plan to some extent. But I wanted to get back to the collection, because obviously she gathered this group of paintings and sculptures and pottery and all of that stuff, and it was really important and meaningful. And so how do you go in and sort of curate and cull and prioritize, and what's that dynamic, and how did you put that process together?
Diplomatically and gently, and you can sense when someone, you can sense when they are very emotionally connected to it. We sort of, a lot of things she was great about, and we knew the things she was very emotionally connected to start off, and we all pretty much agreed these things were amazing and they need to be prominent. And then there were some things that we felt like maybe didn't make the cut, but she was emotionally connected to, and we knew that was going to be a hurdle. And so we had sort of a secret room. They have a secret room in their house, and so we used that as a place to say, it's not in our initial floor plan. Let's put it in the secret room. And then as we're dressing the house for installation, we'll pull from the secret room and gather all the things we think we can get in there. And if we really don't think it makes the cut, we'll leave it there. You still have it. And then at the end, if you're like, I must see this item or, sculpture or something, we'll go get it from the secret room and we'll find a home for it. And it was really a great way to give her a chance to see what it felt like without it. And then feel like, did she absolutely need it? Did it really make the cut and solve a problem or look great? And there was a lot. She got rid of a ton. We just had so much that ended up being sold. And even as full as the house feels, we lost a lot of things. But I think we got the best of the best. We find our new pieces to work with. Next question, design the new pieces to work with.
Yeah, exactly. So the couple of my favorite spaces that have, really amazing pieces in them are that entry space where you have paintings going up the wall, and also in that the space with all that's painted white and has the porcelain collection. How did you sort of select and contextualize those pieces for those two spaces?
Well, we actually locked all that pottery in a particular room. There's another tiny little office that was just a protected room because she was very freaked out about everyone being in the house and then really even just touching this pottery. It's very collectible. So we convinced her of our caution, and we do this a lot, and we make sure, kid gloves. And as we're designing, we planned spaces where we would know, especially like all of the upper shelves in the bar area, and then that white painted area, like we call it sort of the library in the living room, which was a previously really unused space. It had furniture in it, but no one even ventured into this end of this 40-foot long living room. And so we wanted a space where at the holiday, she could be wrapping while still seeing the TV and hanging out with her husband, or she could work on a project of some sort in this little library while feeling like she's part of the room and not isolated out somewhere. So when we came to putting the collection back together, we really we pulled it all out, and it's hard to explain what a designer does when you're visualizing how to make the parts and pieces feel good together. I mean, I think if you look at each section of cabinetry as a standalone, we thought, there's a beautiful larger piece, and then there's a couple of complementary sized pieces, versus sort of saying, here's all the large pieces together, here's all the little pieces together. We balanced scale, I think, both to give breathing room and to highlight a particular piece while having the smaller, more intimate pieces be the little support pieces. Just kind of like you would do any art or furniture piece. I think you put too many important pieces together and you lose what's important. And so we just use scale to create drama with all of the pieces. And I think our goal was to still make it feel calm and make it feel like you could really see the pieces. Because before, they were all just everywhere and jammed so together, you couldn't really feel how amazing it was.
And then in that entry space, that's just it's so fabulous and dramatic. So how did you kind of put that together in terms of the pieces? Was it a similar process in terms of selecting the paintings that you were going to highlight?
She has so many paintings. I mean, there were so many paintings, and we had early on identified our loves and the ones that we felt like should go right back where they were. And then some of them were either in places we felt like unimportant, but that stairwell, to me, originally that entry is so giant. It has double chandeliers, these crazy twig chandeliers that she had. We almost took them down and replaced them, but then we felt like they weren't even really replaceable. They were so unique. And she's really very hands-on, and she had added twigs to them to make them even more spectacular. It was just kind of nutty, and they really worked. And I think we really edited the entry. We designed the entry table to feel a little nod of a Giacometti, but not quite. And we really wanted that to be the anchor and be strong, and got rid of a lot of the littles, and then took a few of her art pieces and added in one or two of ours to create that walking up the stairs. And this feeling like she's going to add to that collection. As she buys more pieces in her travels, which she will inevitably do, she's got all this great space to continue to add to that collection all the way up to the ceiling if she wants.
And I think that's such an interesting detail, that even though you approach this as sort of an editing project, you've given her enough space to add as she sees fit, because
definitely we want people to feel like their collections can grow. You know, some clients, you buy a painting for them and it goes where you put it and they love it and they never touch it. Buyers and people that really collect want to feel like we haven't made it so rigid that they can't add to their collections. And so we don't over accessorize or over art, so that we give them some room to feel like they can add to that collection as you grow with the years. And I think she's sort of she may have aged out, not aged out so much, but exhausted herself out of much buying. But I think, you know, she's a person who might feel like, I need to put a new painting up or add to the collection. And so she might do that.
I love the living room is such a stunning space, and it's a mix of new stuff and old stuff. So I'd love to hear kind of the process by which you kind of mediated between.
And that room was so heavy, and it was a little, the paint color was a little darker. It was just a little muddier, and she had such beautiful things. The fireplace was beautiful. Interestingly, as formal as that room is, they watch TV, and it's really their primary TV room too. And they had just like this 13-foot long giant custom armoire thing that the TV was in. We wanted to just kind of embrace the TV and call it what it is. But we wanted it to still feel elegant in a casually elegant way, so the whole family can come in there and live and be without feeling like everything's untouchable or precious. So we wanted it to do all those things for us. And it was a little difficult because the TV is opposite the fireplace. And so you've got this gorgeous fireplace, and then you sort of go, TV, and then amazing view. So we had to create a room that embraced all those things. And we did a 10-foot long sofa in a gorgeous cravat plaid that just feels beautiful, but really easy living. Again, his and hers chairs were it's a little mama bear, papa bear, but not noticeably. I think you really wouldn't notice the scale change if you weren't thinking about it, because we didn't want to have a baby chair and a giant chair. And so we kind of played with scale to make her feel comfortable and him feel comfortable. And we knew where his favorite place to sit in the room was. We knew where her favorite place to sit was. We knew what they liked to look at when they were there. We knew how much lighting they needed. So it's like a mathematical formula to figure out how to get all those parts and pieces in. And utilize interesting new textures. The Formations coffee table that was a little more crisp. Even though it's very old looking, it just gives you a little more crispness than having all wood everywhere. And I think that helped up our mood, uplifting. We lightened the wall color, which scared them a little bit. It scared her a little bit. And I think they really felt like with the beautiful, beautiful dark original reclaimed beams and all the wood in that room really made a huge difference. It's interesting, that view where you see the daybed out the window, all those beams around that window are all reclaimed. They actually had to redo the windows during the project and remake the windows. So they took all those original beams out, labeled them and numbered them, and then put it back with new windows, like a jigsaw process, and Cornerstone Construction did that, and they did a spectacular job. It was really pretty amazing to do a renovation on that.
I'm so glad you called them out, because that's a perfect way to mention the folks at Cornerstone, because that's truly just remarkable.
It was unlike anything else. We've done a lot of remodeling projects with them, and there's always difficult things, quirks and moving slabs and getting them through windows. And it's, for some reason, whatever we do seems to be heavy and difficult and expensive. And that window arrangement was probably one of the more complicated things I've ever seen them do. It just, with not only making sure that we were so careful, those beams are just raw and organic and open and aged. And it was like taking apart a castle and putting it back together again. It was pretty unique, and it turned out really just beautifully. So yeah. Kudos to them. It just was amazing. So that room is now comfortable and elegant, and it doesn't feel, the draperies are light and airy. So there's a little bit of a California vibe. I think you get the Santa Barbara vibe where it's airy and fresh, but it feels cozy on a rainy Oregon day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then in another room that got a big refresh, and I think is just so fun, is the dining room, because one of the things I've always liked about your work is that you really do like to use color and pattern where it's merited and don't shy away from it. And that room, I just think, is such a phenomenal example of doing that. And so can you walk us through a little bit about how that came to be, with the wallpaper going up and to the ceiling and that whole thing?
Interestingly, they tried to not put that on our scope, to not even touch the dining room, because their thought was, oh, it looks fine and we never go in there and we should just leave it alone. And we knew that dining room had such an opportunity to be something so amazing. Again, it was very dark. It was very tired. Their kids and grandkids just didn't even like to go in there. And it was really had such beautiful parts and pieces. We felt that we were inspired, that we coerced them into letting us do it. And it had wallpaper on the ceiling and the walls, and the wallpaper guy had actually said, I'm never doing this again. Like, I will not do this. We had to coerce him as well into getting the scaffolding and the lifts to come in and do this wallpaper job, because it was probably 18 feet up. And it was really not a pleasant job for him. And you add to it hand-printed Pintura wallpaper, and we felt like that wallpaper, and luckily they loved it instantly, gave us sort of a modernity that changed the whole vibe. And they embraced these sort of pinky salmon silk drapes and the pink Fortuny really early on. They really just were like, we love that. And being able to do the made goods, the faux bois chairs, they fought us a little on that, but I think they really were pretty on board very quickly. So the table is new, the chairs are new, and the drapes are new, and everything else was existing. We moved chandeliers around. There was the chandelier in the dining room was in the great room, and we got new chandeliers in the great room, but then we moved a lot of chandeliers around. They just shifted from weird places to another, and they would pop up and be a great opportunity, because again, she had such amazing stuff. But we felt like the hot pink just sang in that room. It just changed the vibe, and now everyone wants to eat in there. And we created kind of a little wine bar situation, and she had her old shop counter was the big console in there, and you can't quite see it, I don't know, in the pictures, but there is probably a 7-foot painting of a deer carcass, I hate to say, like as a food tray, and on a food tray, and it really, as sort of horrible European as it might be, it was so beautiful to us, and we just felt like it now just sings. So it really is such a fun room now.
As a total aside, when I was in grad school, one of my professors had written a book called Death in the Dining Room, which was basically all about dead paintings and furniture that featured,
It just works. Some people just, I think it would be hard to swallow, but it's probably 200 years old. And it's, to me, it was so stunning because it's just history. And it's not insanely graphic, but it just is such a cool thing. It just, I don't know. It grounds it. It could have been any new piece of art. And I think that old piece of art just really told the story for us of who they were, married with what we did for them. And that didn't feel too new and too sharp and too edgy. So we did a reclaimed table, and sorry to interrupt you. And we wanted the pieces to feel a little bit old, so we blurred the lines, I think, between the old and the new.
Did you use a lot of? We haven't really talked about their furniture so much. We talked a little bit about the chandeliers that got swapped around the house, but it seems like you did bring in terms of the actual furnishings, quite a lot of new stuff.
All the upholstery is really new, and the new breakfast room, sunroom nook table is new, and the dining room table's new, and a lot of it's really kind of half and half. The Bombay chests in the living room, the great room, were existing, and as were the paintings above them. We added lamps to that. We did new rugs from Cush Rugs. We had custom Stark rugs made. We kind of did a little bit of everything, but I feel like there was at least a third of existing pieces which helped prop up all of the things that we did. So it didn't feel shocking to her. I mean, it felt so new and fresh. She really loved it. But it didn't feel like we erased who she was. We kept enough of their history. So in the dining room, it's really just the table and chairs. Mm-hmm. And of course, wallpaper and fabrics, but everything else was theirs, repurposed.
And then another room that I love that has the same sort of no fear of pattern is the master bedroom, where you used China Seas for the wallpaper and for the draperies. So what was the thinking about that? What was the room like beforehand? And
it was sort of a tired old version of that. She really loved pattern on pattern. She embraced wallpaper in the ceilings. She embraced the layering. And so anytime you get a client that is excited about that kind of things and not scared, we ran with it. So of course we instantly thought, what kind of pattern would be lively and fun and current, but yet classic, and that we could layer? And the Tree of Life is one of my favorites. And we just wanted to layer it everywhere. And we took down the old heavy valances and just raised the height of everything, but wrapped everything in that pattern. And it was her old bed, but we did new nightstands, new lamps. We reupholstered her old chairs and wanted to really just cover everything with it. And she was completely 100% for it. Actually, they both were. So that was fun to have both. He actually embraces the traditional layering. And so having that open door, we of course ran through it. So that was super fun. But we wanted it to feel, and also they weren't adverse, being, not having little kids and having a white dog, and they're very cautious. We embraced doing the patterned stark carpet in white. And again, anytime you have a client who's going to let you do white patterned carpet, you go for it. And so we really just went for it on that. And it's a big bedroom, and so we get the drama of all that white carpet. It's very thick and plush. The whole thing just feels opulent and lovely.
And it's so interesting because that carpet is it's white, but it really makes such an impact with that pattern and how lush it is and just enveloping. And it
really feels like you're at the height of opulence. It's not fussy, and it's actually quite durable too. I mean, it's wool, and you can just spot clean it with anything, and it really, not anything, Folex to be specific, but just so in case anybody's like, I can spot clean it with anything. With the right tools, you can really get anything out of it, and it will last for 25 years. It really is a great choice.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So we're rapidly running out of time, so I wanted to kind of wrap things up with you. I always like to hear kind of how the project helped you grow as a designer, or gave you a chance to think through some design conundrums, or some naughty moments, or what was kind of the takeaway from this project, and how did you approach things in a new way or think about things in a new way?
I think always with a client that has I think she's probably one of the clients with the biggest, most emotional collection of things, and we had to really train whether it was me or the senior designer, Morgan Thomas, who worked heavily on this project. It was her baby. She actually deserves a huge shout out because we do everything in teams. Down to the 4 or 5 junior designers and interns that helped, during the install and the emergency runs. And my daughter even ran things out. Like, everybody kind of comes on board during a project like this. And it really, training everyone, caution, care, you take care of every item like it is a baby. And we just reiterating that to myself and to every person every single time really gets everyone in the right frame of mind. And I think thinking about things with, putting their emotional hat on and thinking what she went through to buy this item and to get it across the sea and how long she lived with it. And so we take that to heart and make sure that we show that level of care every time.
Awesome.
And we just learn from it and try to take the next project with that same new knowledge. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's so good to see you. I don't know when the next time I'm going to be able to see you is.
I don't know about in person, but hopefully 2021.
I know, exactly. Fingers crossed.
Yes.
So anyway, thank you so much, Joelle, for walking us through.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care.
So we are here today to explore shifted behaviors in the home and has dive with top residential leaders to examine the motivation behind how they design for the functional needs and emotional well-being of their clients, both for the here and now and looking ahead to the future. Before we begin today's discussion, I'd like to thank our partners at Thermador. For more than 100 years, Thermador has delivered bold design, unmatched performance, and exceptional innovation in the kitchen and beyond. Now, with that, I would love to introduce my panelists. Welcome to the screen if you guys want to come up. So, Andrew, Ron, Jamie, Sarah, thank you. I will introduce each of you. So Andrew Kochin, founding principal of Workshop APD in New York City. So for more than 2 decades, Andrew's distinct aesthetic vision has shaped Workshop APD's remarkable portfolio of projects across North America and abroad. Under his leadership, the design and architecture firm has expanded into a vertically integrated team renowned for its luxury residences, multifamily developments, hospitality projects, and now design products. Andrew holds a Bachelor of Arts from Lehigh University and a Master of Architecture from the University of Michigan. Andrew has served as a visiting professor at Pratt Institute and as a visiting critic at the New York Institute of Technology, Columbia University, Parsons School of Design, and the University of Michigan. So welcome, Andrew.
Thank you.
Sarah Robertson, founder and principal of Studio Dearborn in Westchester County. After earning her BA and MBA from Northwestern and her second MBA, she's one smart cookie, as a consultant with McKinsey, Sarah left the corporate world to pursue her true passion, which is renovating and building homes. Studio Dearborn has emerged as a highly sought after source for kitchen design expertise, completing hundreds of projects and developing a global following in the process. Sarah's dedication to innovation and startups in the industry has led to a brand ambassador role with Docking Drawer, as well as Renovation Angel, where she's proud to be recognized for her commitment to sustainable building practices. Welcome, Sarah. And we should all, well, at least for me, get on my virtual airplane and head to the West Coast. And with Ron Woodson, founder and principal of Woodson and Rummerfield in Los Angeles, California. So growing up with parents in the music industry in Los Angeles, Ron was exposed to the homes of many tastemakers from an early age. With more than 15 years of experience in the design industry, Ron is ever exploring new materials, furniture forms, colors, and fixtures, always with a nod to the past. He attended the UCLA School of Interior Design and was named one of the top 20 Black designers in the US. Ron's passions span a bunch of architectural forms from ultra-modern, Regency style, Spanish, and mid-century architecture. And of course, to his lovely partner, Jamie Rummerfield, founder and principal of Woodson and Rummerfield. With a Bachelor of Science in Design from Arizona State University's prestigious College of Architecture, Jamie has a signature California sensibility rooted in classic design training, mixed with a fashion-forward design approach. Her creative eye is focused on the science behind color, texture, balance, proportion, and scale that is applied to creating memorable spaces. Much of her passion and inspiration is derived from the theatrics of Hollywood, namely the glamour of the silver screen and the romantic bygone era of film. So welcome all, it's so lovely to have you here. And I know, Andrew, you were saying this is like your first virtual call in 9 months, correct?
Yeah, I'm fascinated by this technology. I didn't think it was possible these days. It's amazing.
I think we've all learned how to adapt to this. And you know what, I always joke, at least the silver lining of this is that all of us can be in different places right now, right? So,
sure.
And actually have this conversation. But Andrew, I was gonna start with you and starting off big picture. So with the changing and challenging times, how are you seeing design shift and how has this affected your overall design practice? And I know for you specifically, you actually have a thought about whether your design has even changed during this time period.
Yeah, I've been chatting with a bunch of people through this time, and I think what's important for people to understand is that projects oftentimes take 1, 2, 3, and 4 years. So many of our clients have more of a longer view. Certainly conversations around COVID and this idea of being home and the vision of wanting to be home more, even when we come out of this, is probably the biggest change that I've seen in clients. They're more into it. They're more connected to it. They see it through a different lens. I wouldn't say there's been a specific effect on design vision and design approach that we've sort of implemented, because again, we've started projects long before this, projects are starting now, and hopefully they're going to continue on beyond it. From a business standpoint, I think the interaction in the design culture has changed a lot. Obviously, design is something that you enjoy doing face to face. There's this collaborative nature in the culture of our office. That's something that we've worked really hard to maintain through this digital screen that we're all looking at right now. And you certainly lose a little bit of the texture and grit and fire and energy that happens in an office environment. And also with our clients, the interaction, it's different. We've managed it, as I'm sure everybody has, and we have found, quite frankly, this works. It works well. Business can move forward. Things don't have to stall. In fact, earlier on in the pandemic, I think people were super available. So there was, this constant engagement. I called it like quarantining. Like people wanted to tinker all the time. They had nothing to do except call the design team and say, hey, I was rethinking this. And so we worked our way through that. But I think it's more about just preserving a culture that is something that you don't ever want to lose. And with no sort of end in sight to this, we've been very focused on doing exercises, doing things as a group to maintain that sense of energy and camaraderie that the screen doesn't allow you to adhere to.
So Sarah, I think Andrew touched on some of the challenges for his firm. I mean, did you have other specific challenges that you had within your own design practices? And I'm also curious if you found that there's actually been some sort of benefits or positive moments that have come out of this.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've experienced both positives and negatives. And what's funny, just reacting to what Andrew was saying about how, he's working with the team and how you've sort of had to learn to work, virtually and apart from your team. Whereas I work by myself, I work solo. So actually, the first week of our shelter in place, my husband walked into my office and took one look at me and he said, Sarah, nothing's really changed for you, has it? As I'm sitting there staring at my computer. So, I just feel like the whole access to Zoom has actually been, in some strange way, has been helpful for me with some of my client meetings, because a lot of the work that I do, I'm a kitchen designer now. Just to backtrack, I'm not building buildings any longer. I've been in the kitchen design business now for 10 years. But so my focus is very kind of, completely focused on kitchen design and a lot of the technical aspects of how our kitchens work. So I find it easier for my clients to focus on those really kind of boring technical aspects of, how our cabinets are designed and what our clearances are in a Zoom call than they are when we're in person and they're sort of able to let their eyes drift around and maybe they're distracted by the samples we're going to be talking about. And that's all so much more fun than thinking about, where we're going to be putting the utensils or the compressor on the refrigerator. So from that aspect, it's been really helpful for me to have these more focused kind of technical work sessions, and also sort of have, you know, really clear cut kind of beginning and end, which is also helpful because they can be very long. But on the negative and challenging side, you know, now that we're making a lot of these decisions more virtually, and even if I'm with clients, we're spending more time online making buying decisions. And the biggest buying decisions that we're making in kitchen design are the appliances, really. You know, it's the second biggest line item in every kitchen I design, next to the cabinetry. And the cabinetry, I'm able to, you know, inform my clients with my own videos and that sort of thing, if I need to kind of fill gaps on how things work. When it comes to appliances, I feel like there's this gap in information online in terms of how appliances work and function, and kind of trying to take the place of that, you know, being able to go into an appliance dealership and really touch and feel. So I'd love to see appliance manufacturers really think about how they can do some online videos, some online comparisons. Just, you know, the way if you go to buy a dress online, you can now see 6 pictures of it, plus you can see a video of someone walking around in it, and you're only spending $200 on a dress. But, you know, we're spending $5,000 on an oven, and it would be awesome to see more of that information in video form. So.
Well, I'm sure Thermador is listening with open ears right now about that. I wanted to actually, so we've actually gotten to our first question for our audience. So for all of you at home, so have current circumstances changed how you as designers work with clients? So yes or no?
Yes.
And that's the thing. So I was going to actually direct this question to you, Ron and Jamie. So you have a project in Marin County that you've been working on during this time period. So how have you really adapted your design process for this residence, which have you been doing completely virtually?
Well, we started, as Andrew mentioned, most of our projects are 2 years in the making. And this project is one of them. We've been working on this project almost a little over a year. But we had gotten to a phase right before the lockdown and the pandemic where we had to make some hard decisions on some design choices. And we weren't able to, one, get samples to show to the client. Typically, this is a client that we've had for a long time. This is our probably 4th project with them. So they know us, we know them really well. But we had to show them samples. So first of all, we couldn't get the samples that we needed to show them. And then once we had to get double samples. So what we did was we put a packet together for us and a packet together for the client. We shipped that packet to them, and then we did several Zoom calls like this, and we numbered and lettered all of the samples. And you know, it was a big undertaking. It was a big design process that we did. You know, literally we would sit in front of a client and do this, and it took well over 2 hours. And you know, sometimes with clients, even when you're sitting with them, they glaze over. And we had a lot to show them, but we prefaced it, you know, we could do this over a couple of days so you wouldn't be too inundated and lose focus. But it worked really well because they were able to touch and feel the samples. We had great tear sheets. We even had pricing for them. We had proposals for them.
We told her, don't open it until we're talking to you. So,
Exactly.
So don't go digging through and taking it all out.
Or they probably did sneak in there just a little bit.
Probably.
She does what we say. So she didn't. But we did tell her this was going to be like Christmas for her. And it worked really well. Our clients here in Los Angeles, we have started seeing them very safely, and it's working out.
I think we've we thought projects would maybe go away or stop. And I think maybe there was the unknown for about a week, and they all came roaring back, even though we were in a lockdown here in Los Angeles. And we continuously there's new project requests weekly. We're just like, what, people must be just staring at their homes, analyzing what they want to change. And so it's super busy here, and we just work remotely with most all of our clients. Ron and I really are conservative when it comes to the social distancing. We're really trying. And here in Los Angeles, it's so dense that it's the norm to see streets somewhat empty or masks on everybody. So everyone's doing their part here. And doing construction, it's not a parallel. It's hard to do full-on construction projects and client work at full bore when you're in a pandemic.
No, I totally get it. But it's interesting, Stephanie even sort of touched on it in her presentation, just the rise of the amount of renovations that are happening in the residential work. And like, Andrew, I know that you guys kind of straddle the commercial and the residential world. And I'm sure, I mean, are you feeling the effects and like making up for maybe the commercial work in residential, or?
Yes, I mean, I think I feel like we're in the third wave of the pandemic. There was the early period where we were like, oh my God, this is crazy. The world's gonna end. And then, okay, we'll get our new footing. Everybody will work remotely and work is here and we're gonna be fine for a period of time looking forward. And really the summer has been the opposite of what I think we could have ever predicted. We're very, very busy on the residential side. Like you said, Jamie, our phone is ringing sort of constantly, which is bizarre. I wouldn't have thought it, for not jobs that are immediate jobs, for jobs that are 2-3 years out. So people are just, I think a lot of people came off the sidelines, decided they wanted to see their home through a different lens, whether it be their primary home, second home, or third home. And, you know, the idea, this notion of restoring family was something that a lot of people talk about, and really thinking generationally for their kids and their grandkids, and creating something that's lasting. And that has really been an influential catalyst for new work. Aside from the fact that people have made a lot of money and they want to get money out of the markets and the economy. I don't need to get into the geopolitical side of all this, but there's all those other reasons why I think on the residential side, we all are probably benefiting from a real shift in sort of dollars back into the home, which is honestly amazing. I'm not complaining. The other side of this looks much worse, like 2008. So it's great. And that's when and then 2008 is when we decided to diversify, where we were primarily just a residential firm and we felt very vulnerable and we wanted to make sure we pushed into commercial work and hospitality work. And I think we're fortunate enough to do that over the past 10 years. But now we're seeing that cycle sort of turn back, and we feel very fortunate that residential work is still sort of our main focus and our bread and butter work. And our clients are, you know, a great diverse bunch of folks. So it's definitely been an interesting time from that standpoint.
Well, Sarah, I'm sure you're also just feeling it in the kitchen sphere alone. And, you know, because we're all spending so much time at home, like what are some of the new behaviors you're seeing in the kitchen and sort of the functionality? Because I'm sure all of you are seeing this. It's like maybe how you were designing a home or a kitchen last year maybe is different this year, correct?
I think that the design focus hasn't shifted so much, but it's really been nuanced by the fact that people have been, in many cases, you know, locked up sort of in their homes. In some cases with siblings or children, their grown children's families. And they're really starting to think more about their home, you know, in this multi-generational sort of way, and say, you know, some of these things that we thought were great are now not working for us. So what I'm seeing people really thinking about in terms of kitchen design is really, you know, it tends to be increased capacity. To a certain degree, it's about space utilization as well, and thinking about, okay, now I'm not the only one in the kitchen. Now there are 2 or 3 people in there at one time. And so thinking about things down to clearances and looking harder at where appliances are located. It also gets you to that, the presentation Stephanie did earlier with, refrigeration, the bedroom and so on. People are now looking for sanctuaries away from all these other people that are in their homes that didn't used to be there. So I am seeing, more requests for coffee and refrigeration and bedrooms. But back to the kitchen, yeah, it's so important to be able to think ahead and say, what do we potentially need going forward that we may not have needed in the past, in terms of whether it's refrigeration, storage, or even just a layout that accommodates this broader concept of family. And I think that people are seeing that as a long-term trend. We have an aging population where we are now thinking about, baby boomers moving in with their kids, and I think we're going to see that dynamic, and I think people are kind of welcoming that back as well, and just that sense of holding family closer to you.
Well, Sarah, you just touched on it, but I do have a second poll question for our audience, and just about the sort of, are you now seeing rooms that were previously add-on ancillary spaces becoming more must-have or essential spaces within client designs? So obviously yes and no. And actually for our audience too, if you want to use the Q&A function to leave a comment about some of these rooms, whether it's a home bar or a gym, or of course a coffee machine in our bedrooms that we all need, we welcome those. But Andrew, I wanted to direct this to you. So expanding upon that question actually, so are you finding the boundaries between indoor and outdoor living are being blurred? Because one sort of, I don't want to call it ancillary space, is certainly the use of the outdoors. And I know that you guys are finishing up a Nantucket home that really speaks to this.
I think absolutely. And I think that's always been something that's important to people. But even in my house, this notion of the outdoor space and entertaining with friends outside and not letting people in your home is something where I do believe instant gratification can occur through more comfortable furniture, heat lamps, things like that. Outdoor activities have definitely sort of congregated around that line between indoor and outdoor, so that we're activating and using those spaces, far more than I think folks did in the past. And certainly, any good design of a home where if it has a view or has beautiful outdoor space, that connection is important. But it's definitely taken new meaning where everybody's going to be entertaining outside probably long into December, whether they like it or not, because you'll wear a coat, you'll hang out by a fire pit. For us East Coasters, you West Coasters, you'll be just fine. But on the East Coast, we have to really think about the cold and what's going to happen. And that line, and even tying it back to the point of this conversation today, the kitchen, I think that extension of the indoor kitchen to the outdoor entertaining space, to these outdoor kitchens and outdoor zones filled with appliances, is something that's been extremely popular. People want a seamless transition to their activity zone, whether it be by a pool or by sort of a lounging area, and make sure that, as you were saying, Sarah, everything is right there. And I think as the video was saying before, that sort of micro appliance packages are very popular in creating those sort of pods around the home, so you have everything at your fingertips. I think as we're staying home, we're getting lazier, but trying to exercise at home. But there's like this laziness of, you said it, Helene, you need a coffee maker in your room, but everybody wants everything at their fingertips. I think it's an interesting conversation to have with people about the redundancy of things.
Well, our audience, so for the poll, so 89% of our participants have said that yes, in fact, they are seeing a rise of these sort of ancillary spaces. So, but I want to open it up to the group too. I mean, just in terms of, I know Sarah already touched on it, but like, are Jamie and Ron, are you seeing other people and or other designs and other clients asking for this? These, let's beef up these home gyms, or let's expand. I mean, I'm sure on the West Coast you're already having huge backyards, but how do we even expand more to the outdoor space for entertaining and living?
Well, living in Southern California, even more so than Northern California, indoor outdoor living is key. And we do this in every single project that we do, because of our weather and our lifestyle here in Los Angeles. But we are seeing more people asking for gyms. We have a project that we may talk about a little later, and there's a full gym in that house that's going to be completely redone because of the time that we're in with the pandemic. I mean, people just are not wanting to go out and be in those social settings that we once did. So those are reflecting now in their homes. And again, so oftentimes here in Los Angeles, you have these really large homes that, you know, people put bowling alleys in and basketball courts and all of these items that I used to always think, you're never going to use that equipment in a house. I mean, who wants to stay in a house that much? But now with where we are in these times, those items are extremely popular.
I think we've seen a shift in priorities. People are spending more time with family and wanting quality experiences inside the home, whereas maybe it would be outside or trips or vacations. They're making the home that destination. And so upgrading maybe forgotten projects or these additional spaces and making more room for family time or parties at home together. You definitely see this focus change inward.
So we have one audience member, MK Bedell. She said that bars, outdoor entertaining spaces, and mudrooms are essential for her projects. So thanks, MK, for answering that. But you know, we're speaking regionality. So you know, obviously in California, you guys do get a lot more time outside. But there is one thing that you do experience that perhaps we don't have on the East Coast, which is those extreme fires, unfortunately, which is a huge shame. But Ron and Jamie, I know you guys actually have been working on a project in California that was almost completely burned down by the Woolsey fire 2 years ago. And just curious about that specific project. I mean, have your clients asked for the residents to be designed in a similar fashion to how it was? Or have they taken the time now, especially during the pandemic, to sort of reevaluate how they live and the needs they need for this home?
Well, it's interesting. This client has owned this house for 20 plus years. And it's an interesting story. He never really liked the house previously. He bought it for a previous fiance of his. But kept it at the same time. You know, it's in Malibu, for God's sakes. It's, you know, so desirable. So he came to us just before the fire and wanted us to redo it. And the fire happened, and we're going to change the house completely. It had Spanish overtones, but we're really going to take it to a really beautiful Spanish style home. So it is going completely different. And it was going to go different before, but the fire just really exacerbated that. And it just,
helped.
There is so much damage in the house. There's water. I mean, the firemen, when they came in, the house didn't completely burn to the ground. So it was, the majority of the house is salvageable. But when the firemen came in and hosed the whole house down, and then the house was closed for a period of time, there's mold all throughout the house. So we have had to completely gut the house. There's a lot of work that's going to be done before we can even get to the interior design side. And we've been working with a great contractor that we've worked with for many, many years, but we've had mold abatement in. We've had just you name it, contractors in the house before we can even touch it. So yes.
Luckily, the house, it was kind of this hodgepodge. I would say Miami Vice meets, Spanish beach, house. Malibu isn't known as much for its architecture. It's definitely second homes or beach houses, and it's a mix of beach bungalows that aren't really about architectural details, but it's just the way of life.
90, so need we say more?
Mm-hmm. And so this gave us a great opportunity to redesign the whole house cohesively in a really fantastic way. So even though it's a tragedy, the win is coming out on the best side it possibly could. So we're excited for the potential it has.
Well, looking forward to seeing when it's done. Andrew, sort of continuing this conversation about regionality and shifting to the East Coast, because I know you do a lot of projects, both in New York City and Nantucket. Can you say there's sort of a standard kitchen design or specific requests that your clients make depending on where they are, whether it's urban, suburban, beachy?
I think the notion of the pantry is something that has evolved, where it's turned into, there's the show kitchen and there's the work kitchen. A pantry is no longer a place where you just store dry goods and canned food that I don't think people eat anymore. But it was a cabinet, then it became a room, then it became a bunch of shelves. And now in many of our projects, there's actually a full second kitchen. It's just, you don't actually cook in the kitchen that you hang out in. The dirty work happens somewhere else, which is good for the appliance business. And and it just seems to be growing and evolving that, families are cooking in larger gatherings, not just because of the pandemic, but it's just a sort of a shift in the idea of cooking at home. And so there's these two spaces that have really evolved. And I think it doesn't matter what size the project is, there's this notion of having kind of the show space and then the workspace, and how you divide that up in a home or an apartment is really the challenge. Sometimes you're limited on square footage and sometimes you're not, but the need and the capacity for appliances and storage is what everybody's really looking for. And it's interesting because it's resulted in some really unique design opportunities that we've created. Additionally, I would say that this notion of the island has really changed. It's no longer just a monolithic block. It's something that, we're oftentimes embedding tables and sofas and comfortable seating in, and it's more of a focal point object rather than just a box that holds appliances and has a sink or a cooktop in it. It's how do we turn that into a real architectural or design feature within the home that can satisfy so many different needs as far as cooking, hanging out, dining, lounging, morning coffee, and all of these things, that it's actually been kind of fun to really rethink and reimagine how the island sort of sits in a home.
Well, certainly the kitchen has taken on this sort of multifaceted role that can be for entertaining and dining, and obviously now for work, which is really important for all of us. But this also brings up another poll question. And this is asking about how buying behavior in the luxury market. So are you seeing or not seeing a shift in high-end buying behavior? Are your clients buying down? Or are they taking this time, especially because they're spending more time at home, investing in those luxury brands? And I'm just wondering for you, Sarah, in kitchen mode, how, if at all, has buying behavior really shifted within the luxury market for you? I know earlier on the conversation you talked about appliances. Do you find that there is an emphasis on really adding more luxury into one's residence and in their kitchen spaces, given that it has this sort of versatile function? Or do you think that clients are really playing it safe and sort of going for low risk?
No, I'm definitely seeing more of an emphasis on looking not so much at luxury brands, but the way I think of it as really luxury features. So I think people are really digging more into the appliances as well as the other finishes that they're putting into their spaces, and really trying to gain an understanding of what the benefit's going to be to them, because they're potentially seeing themselves as home more and potentially seeing themselves as sharing their skin with other members of the family. So, you know, that I think has really changed that whole purchase process. I'm definitely seeing a very recent sort of evolution in terms of the way people are investing their time and how they're thinking about making you know, big investments in the kitchen space, particularly appliances, but also, you know, other luxury finishes where they might see, you know, they're starting to see a real benefit in investing, I think, in quality. And, you know, I was touching on Jamie, she mentioned that people are kind of shifting their thoughts away from travel and more towards why the home is important, but they're also switching their budgets. You know, Andrew was sort of mentioning how people's, you know, the economics behind it, you know, isn't lost on people, and no one's been able to spend money really on travel this year, or if you have, it's amazing you found a place to go. But I've definitely had clients tell me that, hey, you know, we didn't take our summer trip this year, so we're going to put the money into, you know, the next level higher refrigerator or something, where they feel like they'll really have a benefit. So yeah, I'm definitely seeing people thinking that way. And again, that's, you know, where people need to be able to really hone in on, so what makes these brands different from one another? You know, how can I really figure out the different specifications? So yeah, so I'm excited about having more of those conversations with my clients as they focus more on being informed and making smart decisions.
And it sounds like based on the poll questions that a lot of the audience feels the same way, that people are really starting to invest in those luxury brands, and probably because they have the budgets to do it, because they're not traveling and probably investing in other ways. But kind of rolling that one into another poll question, I want to ask the audience, what are some key trends that you're noticing emerge out of the current climate? So wellness in the home, the importance of sanitization in the home, the future of connectivity, interior organization trends, and togetherness or entertaining as a family. I know all of you guys actually touched on this throughout the conversation. Certainly for the audience, if you want to add any comments to the Q&A for any trend that may or not listed in the poll question, let us know. But Andrew, I do want to direct this one to you, because health and wellness, which sort of that poll question touches on, is really a hot topic, which really has been infiltrating our lifestyle in so many ways, actually pre-pandemic. So, you know, whether it's our workplace, the hotels where we're traveling, and yes, even in our homes. But, you know, however, given this time period, have you found the idea of wellness has really increased the influence on how you design a home? And I know that you are sort of wrapping up your first project in Greenwich, Connecticut that sort of speaks to this.
I mean, absolutely. It's become, the kitchen used to be the heart of the home. I think wellness is now even more so the heart of the home. That there's definitely a lot of conversation around how exercise makes its way into your day and how that affects the flow through a home. So where these are placed, I think gyms used to get stuck in the back corner of the basement. You put a couple nice lights in and put up some wall board up and a mirror, and you felt like you had a home gym. Now those spaces are now moving to the ground floor. They are sitting in the prime place of the view of the home, whether it's an indoor pool, a spa, sauna, steam. They're really the bow of the ship. They're where people want to spend time, and they're no longer back of house, they're front of house spaces that will double as entertaining spaces. And it's really expanded into a full sort of, you know, 5-star boutique hotel resort where there, you know, whether there's a massage room in the gym and lockers for friends and family as they come over. I think it's fun, it's exciting, it's a very different design strategy and design approach, and there's a whole new crop of consultants out there to help you do, you know, ice baths and hot tubs in one, and how you navigate that through mechanical, like it's a whole complex matrix of components, but it's unique and it's very interesting. But it is definitely now very forward thinking, very front of mind, and in a primary spot. So the basement dwelling approach is definitely something that is not as popular as it used to be, I think it's more about bringing those back of house spaces up front and center to the way you live and the way you can connect to the outside.
I just want to touch on the poll because it was something that I think all of you spoke to, which is basically that that really being at home, it's really more about the togetherness and the idea of entertaining. So, which you guys all spoke to. So it's interesting because people are not traveling, but what about for you designers? Because of course, during this time when we're sheltering in place, you know, I know that maybe you're finding your inspiration. You can't do that through travels and your visits to global events. So Ron and Jamie, I know that I saw you in January, which feels like actually yesterday, but also almost a year ago at KBIS. But like, what impact do you feel this current time period will have on the future of trade shows and on travel in general, especially for you two?
Well, I just had this conversation the other night with some colleagues, and I started counting the destinations that I would have been at by now, and I got up to almost 20 since I saw you last, actually since March. And so it is difficult. I'm just, me personally, I'm not really ready to get on a plane just yet. And so I've got to somehow figure how this is going to work because I'm going to have to soon. And trade shows, I just don't know how that dynamic is going to work, especially in the very near future. I mean, High Point is going on now, and we were invited to go, and I've seen some videos that people are featuring of their visit, and it is a very different time. So I am not sure how we're going to come to meeting in the middle for this subject, because it's a difficult one, because all of us want to touch and feel, and so many vendors are all over the world that you want to meet with. I mean, we've traveled with vendors literally all over the world, and it's going to be a while before that happens. So, but vendors are getting they're getting crafty with how they're introducing product. I mean, some vendors of ours have set up workshops and pop-up spaces where, you know, small groups of us can go and look at the product. And I know that from a budgeting standpoint with some, that would be cost prohibitive, but it is working for some. And so it's just getting creative. But we're still in a phase of a huge learning curve on how we're going to adapt to what we're hoping isn't the new normal.
I think it's important for vendors to be sensitive to that, because these trade shows are super important to the whole trade as well as the companies and their businesses. So it is a challenging topic, and a lot of people are not comfortable going to these, and with these kind of made up timelines of like, oh, we're reopening, but what is that based on? And so we're about information and logical direction, and this going to a trade show is just not in the cards for us. We've been asked to do showcase houses, travel, and we're just saying no, because we're just not comfortable with it. And I think it's an opportunity for vendors to come up with something new. And maybe it's just the time that these trade shows look a little different anyway. Maybe we're just ready for the new wave of these types of presentations and the way you get information. And I think there's a big silver lining in the way we all can interact. I see so many of my East Coast colleagues and friends so much more now than I ever did, because we're connected in this way. And vendors who are in networks that we just have set calls or pods of people that want to hear about what's new, and people have kind of gone out and just made this happen, which maybe that outreach would not been there. So it's interesting to see what, you know, what is it, the term necessity is the mother of invention. So it's coming up with something new. Plus traveling to High Point is not easy in general.
Yeah. Well, I obviously did not go to High Point, so I'll let you know. But it's interesting with KBIS around the corner and you know, thinking about 2021 and what shows will or will not be happening. So I know we all have that big question mark sort of in our heads at the moment. I know we're sort of getting close to the end of our panel, and I actually thought it might be good to introduce and welcome Megan Spiez from the Thermador brand team. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a few questions from the audience that I want to throw out to Megan and also to the panelists. So the first one we have is from Leslie Gustafson. Are healthy, eco-friendly, or sustainable products being specified? So if any of you guys are thinking about that in terms of how you're specifying products for the home, are you focusing on specifically healthy, eco-friendly, or sustainable products at all?
Yeah,
go ahead.
We've been doing that well before the pandemic. Our clients are really staunch in a wellness home, and so down to new lighting and products, appliances, how they interact in the home. It's key in every single project we do now.
Sarah, did you have something to contribute?
Yeah, I was going to say, unfortunately, I'm not sure that our region, or at least my clients, are quite as focused on that yet. But one of the things that I'm trying to get them to focus on is sort of, you know, managing the waste that comes out of renovating. And you have to figure that anytime you're ripping out and redoing, you're probably discarding a lot of things that might be useful to others. So that's kind of where the renovation angel thing comes in, with having people think about donating the kitchens and the appliances, because that's a huge, if you think about how much mass all of that stuff takes in a dumpster and a landfill, and a lot of them are still usable. So that's definitely something I've been trying to get people to think about, and also just think about how the materials that they're investing are made, and are they being made in a sustainable fashion. So just a couple things that I'm trying to get my clients to focus on a little more, but I think that the East Coast, West Coast mentality is a bit different.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Megan, it'll be interesting to know from sort of a appliance perspective, and how does, you know, if a client approaches you or a designer approaches you looking for a healthier, sustainable product.
Yeah, and it's definitely a question that we know is facing a lot of our consumers. A lot of our products are made in the U.S. and we're very proud of that. So just having locally sourced products available to us, and we are working through some of those types of initiatives as a brand too.
So we have another question from Julie Rodriguez. I'm seeing the need for less open concepts due to the need for people to work and educate or learn, while others may be cooking, watching television. Are you guys seeing that yourselves, getting those types of requests in terms of the projects that you're working on?
I live it every day at home. I lock my son in his room with like a padlock and insulated pads, and absolutely, I mean, I think, yes, the point is the idea of the open plan certainly exists in primary spaces, but the individual spaces are certainly more called out. You know, obviously the home office is something that everybody's talked about for the past 6 months, and how, you know, it used to be in the bedroom where you sat in the kitchen, but the need to have your own individual space where you can actually close a door and do a video chat and not feel as though the whole world in the house is climbing on top of you. I think it's more about the conversation about where do those activities and where do those zones occur within the home. If you're building a new home, if you're renovating, it's obviously very different, but certainly in our newer projects, there's a lot of organizational studies that go into sort of the adjacency of spaces and how they can certainly act in a more successful way based on where they're placed in the home.
Sarah, what about with you? Are you finding that as well?
Yeah, I think to a certain degree, I think most of my clients are still very interested in this open floor plan, but they're thinking more about maybe flexible solutions where things can be opened up and then closed off. And I think that there's a bit more creativity required for the designer and the architect when you're trying to make these spaces be able to serve multiple tasks. And I kind of love that, whether it's designing flexible furniture or a flexible room situation or room dividers. But it's the sorts of challenges that people have been designing small spaces have kind of had all along in terms of needing these spaces to be able to transition, to transform themselves. But now we're kind of requiring that of larger homes too. And I personally think it's kind of fun.
Agreed.
Yeah, and then I know, Megan, for you, I mean, because if people are having these smaller spaces and these ancillary spaces, you guys can accommodate any needs that are necessary on an appliance front.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned you were at KBIS last year, so we focused on that. We did different applications with wine columns in your closet or office area. And really, I mean, now it's kind of a little forethought, but thinking about like a space just for her with these, get up in the morning, you start your day, you have the coffee, we've talked about that, and then you're unwinding at the end of the day with your glass of wine or under counter, which is a product that's incredibly transformative and can go anywhere really. So we encourage a lot of our designers, and we're encouraged by a lot of, as Steph shared, a lot of the inspiration that we see from designers in placing different products throughout the home. So definitely seeing that more and more now than ever.
So unfortunately, time goes really quickly. So, and we're a little bit over. So, but I just wanted to say, a really heartfelt thank you to all of our panelists for being here today, for your time and your insight. Like I said, the silver lining of this whole experience is that we can be in New York and LA and Westchester and other places and actually come together and have this conversation. So thank you. And definitely a huge thank you to Thermador. You guys were an amazing partner for today. Thank you. And of course, to our audience, cheers. If you got the cocktails, make sure at least it's 5 o'clock somewhere, right? So go ahead and enjoy. And thank you guys for all joining us today.
Or hand sanitizer, or hand sanitizer.
Or use hand sanitizer, either way.
We want to thank all of you. And then also we do, I do want to address, Sarah, you made some great points about experiencing product, and I'd like to invite you all to experience our virtual showroom that's available on our website, where you can see interactive pictures of all of our different products. And then we have 360 views coming. So hopefully that can make your lives a little bit easier, experience our products when you cannot be in our showrooms. And we wish you all the best, and thank you for joining today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye.